Can you hear me? Into it. Here he comes. Full. Yeah, he is. The beast. The beast has returned.
Red ones for you.
Wicked. Yeah, we got to do this like Brutus.
Got to do this like Brutus. We always knew this. That's more like your.
Yeah, the dark ones. The dark ones. Yeah. Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
The place to be.
Right, let's kick this off then. So, right, lights, camera, action. On this week's show, we have the highly talented MC who's been into hip hop since the early 80s. We have from London all the way over to Southampton, the one and the only MC Mike Nitro in the place. Woo! Woo!
Whoa.
How you doing, my man?
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I think we need to work on getting louder sound effects for the applause.
Don't worry, don't worry. I've got bombs. I've got bombs. I've got gunshots. I've got everything. Yeah.
Just edit it in.
I'm gonna edit it. Yeah. I'm gonna edit the full works in. So
then you get the police round.
Yeah, I hope you're good, mate. And we're gonna take it back. We're gonna go way back into time, back where it all started for you. And we're also gonna be talking about your new album that's coming out as well this month. So I'm really excited to talk to you.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good, brother.
So first, you know how it rolls. First two questions I always ask is, whereabouts are you from, and what was it like growing up?
Well, I was born in Exeter, southwest, and but I moved from there with my mum up to Southampton when I was like 7. So I don't really. So it's a bit of a fragmented youth, because growing up there it was like, I just got to a certain age where you kind of just at school. First school, and then I was uprooted from there to go to Southampton to finish school there. So it was a bit fragmented, and I wouldn't really say, although I'm from Exeter, and obviously I look out for it, and I've got family there, although not as much these days, but I wouldn't say that I'm really from Exeter. I'd say that I'm from Southampton, really, because that's where I grew up. You know what I mean? It's like, so
yeah.
So I'd say I cut my teeth in Southampton, really, and that was all right. Made some pals. It was good. Same as probably most people just growing up. But I mean, our era, in the era that I grew up in, was the era of, for me, for hip hop, the kind of, obviously it wasn't the early 70s side of it, but the 80s kind of explosion with the whole kind of breakdance thing. And that was me growing up, and so many of my pals were of the same thing, growing up and getting into that stuff.
So basically, what kind of music was you growing up on? I mean, obviously before hip hop and all that. Dollar, yeah.
Dollar.
Nice.
Do you know what? My first album that I bought. This goes to show, how old I am, and also how bad my music taste was, but also how young I was when I bought it. The first album I bought was a Dollar album, right? Fuck those words, but so I bought that, and I didn't like it.
What was that? Did you say Madonna?
No, Dollar.
I thought you said Madonna. Yeah.
No, I don't mind Madonna, to be honest, but that wasn't no Dollar.
Holiday. Let's celebrate.
Yeah, listen, I don't mind. But no, Dollar, and then I took it back because I didn't like it. I mean, I say I took it back. I probably just moaned. My mum took us back. We got it from W.H. Smith's, and I exchanged it for an Action Man safari outfit. So that guy, you know what I mean? The whole thing there is tragically old and weird, good and bad. Dollar, bad. Action Man outfit, pretty dope. Do you know what I mean? But Action Man were cool. So that just goes to show how old that was. So musically, yeah, that. Do you know what? I remember this probably had a bigger influence on me than I thought at the time. But my granddad gave me, do you remember the old tape recorders or tape players that were like this kind of shape, had a handle that just kind of popped out, and it was just a cassette deck with one speaker at the top, sort of thing. Looked like a toaster. Do you know what I mean? But I had that. I remember my granddad bought me these kind of disco boogie kind of tapes, which had some old kind of boogie stuff on there and things like that. And I was just, I wasn't really into that so much, but I think that was probably my real first kind of entry point into kind of black music, if you see what I mean. And that, because I was 5. You know what I mean? I was listening to it, I didn't really know what it was. But then as things progressed, then, yeah, obviously got older and then just got into my music taste really. Like, prior to hip hop wasn't a lot, because I got into hip hop really early. So I was listening to hip hop sort of from like 7.
So did you have like a little dabble in a bit of like popping and breaking and a bit? Did you ever do any graffiti as well?
No, I'll be honest. You know, like I'll give you a candid approach to it. Like I think with regards to like hip hop, for me, it was breakdancing first. But I was shit at it, so it didn't really go anywhere, you know. But that was what really kind of like roped me in. And then off of that led from being more interested in the music. And then the music out of that was then more defined by the rapping side of things that I was more into.
Alex, what made you want to pick up the microphone and start MCing?
A couple of things. One was just my interest into it and the love of it. Because I've always been a fan of words, you know, and wordplay and creative writing and creative words, you know. It was probably like in the early days, there was a guy from my area called Luke Quinn, and he was just a really good rapper. And he was sort of like doing demos, and he was sort of like talking with like he was like talking with Hunt Kill Finn and people like that and Cole Sweat, and but he never just went and did it. But he was incredible. Was
he quite like a big inspiration to you back in the day?
Massive. Oh, the biggest. Honestly, he's the biggest inspiration. He was the biggest inspiration on me rapping, and like because he was just so good. Because you got to remember, right? This is, and I hate saying this because it sounds really cliched in that, but as a young like white kid in a suburb of Southampton at that age, there wasn't a lot of white people doing it, let alone in a suburb of Southampton, you know. So it was just a kind of thing that you looked up at and went, oh, that's amazing, I'd love to be able to do that. But there wasn't any connection of how you think, oh, I could do it or whatever. So then when I heard Luke doing it, I was like, well, maybe you can do it then, because he's amazing. And he is amazing. For me, he still is one of the best like MCs I've ever heard. And
was there any US MCs as well inspiring you too?
Yeah, I was listening. I was thinking like it's always difficult when you get these questions, because I'm just trying to think. I mean, US MCs, yeah, Ice-T, early days, you know, like God, who else is there? I mean,
Melly Mel,
obviously. I used to love Step Off. Yeah, who else was there? Jesus, I mean, Fat Boys. Do you know what? Here's another record that that really inspired me, rap-wise, and I think just for the toughness of it was the B-side to Wipeout, right? So when I was a little boy, you know, it'd be like, Mum, can you buy me Fat Boys Wipeout? You know, like, and so like back down to Woolworths. Here you go, here's your 7. You know, like, and then so you get that. But it was the B-side that did it for me, that Crushing record, and I still listen to it to this day. When that just drops in, I'm just like, I'm still blown away by the toughness of that beat. It's crazy.
Did you talking of Fat Boys, did you have a little dabble at the beatbox as well?
I can beatbox a little bit. Like not brilliantly, but I could hold it down. If there was a cipher going on and someone wanted someone just to hold a beat down, I could hold it down like that. But no, nothing. I mean, like, I think with beatboxing as well, if you come from a certain era, you kind of see the progression of it to like how mad it is now. So you kind of go, when someone says, can you beatbox? It's like, well, I can go or whatever, and you can just go and throw it out there. But then you think, when you see the quality of people, what they're doing today and the noises that they're making and things, you just go, no, I can't do it. I'm not even getting anywhere near that.
Alex, how about producers? Who was you rating on the production side of things from like the US?
Production wise, I mean, who did I like? And again, it's just going, I feel so old now going back to stuff. Production wise, do you know what? I'll be honest with you, Steve. Production wise, I didn't really get into production and having a kind of idea on what was good or what was bad, or no, not what was bad, but the intricacies of it or whatever, until a bit later on when I started getting involved with doing stuff. Because for me, it was more about I would listen to the vocals, I would listen to the lyrics, that side of things, yeah. So like the whole kind of thing with regards to production, I was always lyrics first, MC first, then the beats. I was a massive fan, and still am, of Horns of Jericho. I know that's not US, but Horns of Jericho, but let's be honest, Horns of Jericho didn't sound like a UK produced album at that time. It didn't sound like other UK productions. It sounded very polished, because a lot of the UK sound, not that I disliked it, I loved it. I loved the grittiness of it, but it was very kind of, let's say, lo-fi.
I mean, there was some amazing hip hop back then. I mean, you know, you had obviously Blade coming out with some amazing stuff. Obviously, Hijack, Demon Boys, you know, Overlord X, MC Duke. I mean, you know, that I'm not too sure.
That was my era. That was my thing.
That was your era, yeah. And for me, that was kind of like that. For me, was like the golden era of UK
stuff. Yeah, for sure. 100%. And like, but that was me. You know, you want to talk if you want to strike a chord with me, talking to me about anything, you know, with like hip hop. That's where it's at with me, because that's where I just spark up and go. You know, early Hijack stuff, Hijack, Gunshot, Silver Bullet. I mean, my favourite group, probably Son of Noise, Hard Noise before, all that stuff. And it was just something about the energy. I remember listening to, like, I was listening to American stuff, and don't get me wrong, I liked it, but I think it was when I finally turned on to the Silver Bullet, Gunshot, stuff like that I felt a real heavy connection, and I was like, wow. And it was something that I think, I'm not one of those people that dwells on stuff and is closed-minded and like, of course not. You know, I don't, because there's some people that are just so stuck in the past. They refuse to see anything, and they're so blinkered that they kind of go, oh, there's nothing good out. That's not true. There is a lot of good stuff out there. I just think that maybe as you get older, sometimes you lose a little bit of the zest to go and dig and hunt for it so much, so you become safe in what you know, which is your own bubble of your own era, and with your own good memories and stuff, as opposed to, because sometimes it does take effort to go out.
The way I see it, Alex, is that there is so much good music out there. It gets saturated because there's so much of it now available. It's hard to kind of find.
I agree 100%, and I say this a lot because, you know, going back, just touching back on what I was going to say, which ties in with that, is that whole golden era thing. And like, I'm not so hung up on it that like the golden era is that, oh, you can't have anything else. What I mean about that what I mean about that golden era of UK stuff was the music, the energy, but also the record sales, also the volume of sales, right? Because it was selling. You could go, I remember going into like Our Price, you know, or Virgin or whatever, and you pick up, you go and see like Gunshot 12s and things, and it just seemed to be a bit more accessible and just, I don't know what about, but that's the certain.
Well, listen, the good thing with vinyl is that, you know, you've got a hard copy in your hand. You've got like the vinyl, you've got the sleeve. It's like a proper package. It's a package. Where with digital, it kind of all gets lost. It doesn't feel kind of, I don't know. It's a shame. I prefer vinyl.
Digital doesn't look well stacked on a shelf, does it?
Nah, well, you can't stack it on the shelf. Yeah, their shelf is obviously online on the digital.
Exactly. That's my point. But like, it's too much choice, man. You were happy back in the day. Same as the whole Blockbusters things. We're deviating away from hip hop, but it's the same principle. Blockbusters used to be great fun. And down to Blockbusters on a Friday night or something, and finding a video that you didn't know was even coming out, and you were like, oh, I want to see this. There's a lot of hype that's been missing. And again, maybe that's the same. Goes back to music and the golden eras. There was more hype and more anticipation. You don't get, there's not much anticipation anymore, apart from my new album, obviously.
Because of technology, you know, so many more people are making music. Because back in the day, you'd have to go to a studio to make your music. But now you can sit there in your bedroom with like a laptop and just like, you know, and make music. It's brilliant.
Mate, don't even go there. Right, like. Again, we're on a very similar wavelength, I think, with things. Do you know what? I didn't start making rap music like properly, like until I met up with this geezer called Lee Mincham, who goes under the guise of Feature Cast. But he produced this album, just there, by the way, Dark Craftsman. He produced that album, but he's really good. He's an excellent producer. But like, it took me about 2 years to find someone. Funnily enough, I met him when he was working in shop that I ended up managing a few years later, right? So I met him there, we got talking, he was producing stuff, but it had taken me about 2 years. I was already writing stuff, I just couldn't find someone that was producing like hip-hop stuff, because back in those days you had to be committed. You know, a lot of the stuff you had to go and purchase stuff. You had to have your outboard desk, you know, whether it was a small Mackie or whatever it was, you used to have to have it. You used to have outboard gear, you used to have your sampler, your Akai's, your thing. But like But these days, and I always compare it, I always say, I guarantee you, give me any road, I guarantee you, I'll knock on 20 doors, right? and I'll find someone that either makes music or goes, oh no, Steve makes music, he'll have a go at it. Things change, but that goes back to what we say. You know, you had to be committed and spend money on it. So you had to be you had to want to do it. These days, people just can have a dabble, which is no harm in that, but it does go to lend itself to why there's so much stuff out in the ether these days.
I remember going into the a recording studio, paying for some studio time. I think it was Scratch Professor. I think he was the engineer on one of the tracks I'd done. And, you know, it's quite expensive. And you'd sit there and I'd be talking to, like, you know, the engineer saying, I want this here, I want that there. And, you know, it was eating into time. You know, it's costing a lot of money. But now, as I say, you can just sit there now and do it yourself.
And that kind of sometimes reflects in the quality of the music, doesn't it? If you have to, and also about the consumption of music, I think. So, like, and what I mean by that is, I always say this, like, trying to give an example to it. If you're listening to music online, so say you go onto YouTube or Spotify or one of the free kind of essentially free platforms, if you go and like listen to something that you don't like, you know, how many seconds are you giving it? And if you go like 15 seconds, 10 seconds, I don't like it, you can tell fairly straight away. I said, but the problem isn't really that. The problem is when you find something that you do like, right? So you find something that you do like, and you go, right, I'll listen to it. And then because you haven't paid for it, there's no financial commitment. Like I said, there's no anticipation anymore, really. You're not going, oh, I really want this album. It's like, so it's just there. So it's there. You listen to it and you go, cool. Next, what's next then? Because that's the way we consume stuff. It's all free. There's no financial commitment. I remember buying, probably the example I'd give is buying Fear of a Black Planet. Right, the anticipation of getting it, the cover, just opening it, whack on the deck, and then listening to it, and just listening to the whole album, back to front, front to back, to front to front to back. And just being like, wow.
Alex, that was going to be one of my questions to you. Was there kind of certain key tracks? It doesn't have to be hip hop either. It can be any style of music that kind of blew you away. You know, that was on repeat.
Yeah, I mean, again, probably going back to a heavy influence to me, massively, was the breakdance movie soundtracks. And they still are now. I still listen to like Reckless, well, you know how
but I have seen DJs to name some game recognition and even fame. Yeah.
I see it's the best. Reckless.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's like 30 odd years now, and I can still vaguely remember like every single lyric to the tune.
But that whole soundtrack, so that which also leads me to the whole thing about speaking of Chris the Glove Taylor as well, which is the other thing. Like, but that soundtrack, George Cran's Din Dada, is a massive record. I love that record. That kills me. That record still. That Oh Yeah Mamacita record. Just all of it, beatbox by Art of Noise. That whole soundtrack. The soundtrack's probably better than the film, but the film is still.
And Tibetan Jam, you know, when I bought Reckless, you flipped it over and on the B-side you had Tibetan Jam. I mean, how good was that? Tibetan Jam.
Mate, the whole thing was just, I loved all the music. The music was incredible. All the Ollie and Jerry stuff. Like just, styling, profiling. Got to make it right for you. What a tune, man. Just all that whole thing is just so dope. I love it. You know, that for me, I could listen to that. I bought the double album CD last year. I think it's because I wanted to sample Oh Yeah Mamacita, which I have done. So don't anyone else do that, unless you have done. I'm just blocking that one off now. Timestamp it. When is this?
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Don't
anyone else do it. Don't do it. No, because I love that record. I actually have made a record with that with doing that. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I love that. It's just amazing. That's just incredible. It's just such a vibe. But that soundtrack, the whole soundtrack, it's just George Cran's Din Dada. Mate, when that drops, it's just mental. It's just mental.
Yeah. And Alex, how did you get your name? You know, Uncle Mike Nitro.
Did you know what it was? When I did this album again, I've got other things down here, by the way. But when I did that album, I was called Lord Technique, right? That was because Technique was just a name. It was just a name that I had from when I was like, I don't know, 16. And then I wanted to sound like I was more important, so I added Lord to it when I did the Dark Craftsman stuff. And then that was my name for however long. And then when I came back, so after a hiatus of God knows how many years, and I was going to make some more music, I wasn't doing that stuff anymore. You know, I'd grown up a bit and it was different stuff. So I just wanted a different name. So I was just sat there thinking, what's a good name? And then I came up with Mike Nitrogen, and I was like, I quite like it. So Mike Nitrogen, Mike Nitro.
So what Mike as in microphone?
Yeah, Mike, M-I-C,
right, yeah. How about the uncle? About the uncle part?
Because I'm a fat old geezer now. So what it is, it's a disclaimer, yeah? It's a disclaimer. So if anyone goes, cool, you're a bit old. I'm not. Uncle, isn't it? Uncle. You don't get many young uncles, do you? You know what I mean? It's a fat middle-aged disclaimer.
I like it.
Also, I always used to like Uncle L, Future of the Funk. You know, LL Cool J's Uncle L. Yeah. Was it Uncle Be Nice as well? You Be Nice from the F9s? Yeah.
No, I like it. And also, you got a selection of tracks you've like dug out. Can you go through them as well, Alex?
Well, yes, I can, Steve.
Thank you very much.
No, these are just some things that I've done recently. I didn't know whether you're probably more interested in the Uncle Mike Nitrogen master you can get. No, seriously. Yeah, which comes to the album.
I love it.
This is the first Dark Craftsman record that was released in about 2000 again. True Vandal. That was all right. That was released on Halo's record label, which was Halo from the Criminal Minds, which I met in that record shop again when he came in. Now, I used to be quite a fan of TCM, Criminal Minds. I used to like their stuff. They were kind of very original as well, had their original sound, but they were outside of London. They were Milton Keynes, so they're probably within their own bubble doing their own thing. So that's still kind of that. Again, this is what I liked about UK hip hop. It had different. It kind of, you know, it was permeated with different things. You know, you had like the CM stuff, you had your Silver Bullet stuff, you had the tough stuff, but then you also had things like Crispy Free. You had, you know, like there was lots of different things. You had the ragga stuff. I used to like the ragga influence on UK hip hop. That was a big one.
Daddy Freddy, that kind of style.
Daddy Freddy, yeah, you know, Daddy Freddy on Record Breakers. You know, like watching Cheryl Baker trying to make head nor tail of what the fuck is going on with Daddy Freddy rapping. Like she's just there going, yes. Is it good? I don't know. Right, but anyway, so
because he was so quick.
Yeah, just going like.
You'd have to slow it right down to pick up on every single.
But a lot of it was just syllables, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like just go like whatever, like and you could just see her go. I don't understand the words, but smile. like you get.
Smile like I get it, like I understand
like
it.
This. Yeah. Smile like that. But then there's that's Cold Blood there. There's we just dressed up like weirdos. Look at me in the back. Look at my massive chopper.
Oh, you got a big one now.
Wow, look at his chopper. But that's that. That's the album that I did a couple of years ago, 2017 was it? I don't know. Ooh, red vinyl. To signify lava from the volcano Krakatoa. There you go. So there's that. That was good. That's where I first linked up with Said G, just speaking with him online, and he did the intro to that Back to Basics. That's the test press for the new album.
Vincent on Horseback.
Yeah, Vincent on Horseback. Yeah. So yeah, that's the new album.
Alex, how did you come up with the name Vincent on Horseback?
I was just drunk, and like I was watching a clip of Godfather 3 was on, and it was a bit where Zaza gets assassinated, and the geezer just like galloped past as the mounted police, you know, and I looked at it and I thought, because I'd seen the film a couple of times, I just was like, watching, I was like, oh, that isn't the policeman, is it? That's and I couldn't remember the geezer's name, and I was going, that's Andy Garcia. I was like, that's Andy Garcia's character. That isn't a policeman. He's now I remember he's dressed up to go and assassinate. Is it Joey Zaza or whatever he's called? And he goes, so then I started searching it, and I was like, right, okay, his name's Vincent. And I like the artwork. I just like the way it looked. It's a real good, it's a great imagery. So then I was just drunk and I was searching, obviously after I found out his character was Vincent, I was searching Vincent on Horseback. And I just thought, it sounds like a good name for an album. So then I spoke to John, and John was probably drunk. And then John went and did some artwork for it. And then before you know it, it was called that. And it kind of works, you know. It was just one of those random things that just happened. So I was watching the film, but the main character from the film was obviously Michael Corleone, right? And Vincent is his nephew, so he's Sonny's son, right? Or his illegitimate son. So then Michael Corleone welcomes him back into the family, but Vincent always calls him Uncle Mike. So I was like, well, yeah, okay, so now it actually makes sense.
Yeah.
There is a connection. If you want to edit that out, what is the reason? The reason for it is because Vincent calls Michael Corleone Uncle Mike throughout the film. That's not why. That was just a lucky escape, really. So there you go. But
and who else features on the album?
There he is.
There he is. There's Vinny on Horseback.
Yeah, he's calling me Uncle Mike. Who else is on the album? So Crash Slaughter remixed Bod Gets Slapped Up, and that's on the album, and that features Rams and Bad Bones and Said G on that. And then I've got Greg Blackman, who's an incredible singer, really incredible voice. He's on a track called Right. And then I've got Kalashnikov and Michael Parkinson on a track called New Planet Goons. And Parky also helped produce another record, or produce the original beat for this track called Where the Monsters Are. I've got Juggernaut on a track called Lemonade. A guy called Joe Byrne on a track called Snap Your Neck.
And where can people support your music? Where can they go and buy it or download it?
Well, at the moment, I mean, if this album is available, I don't know whether there's any copies of this left at all. I don't know. I need to speak to Simon. But you can buy the digital version of Mindstate Krakatoa is available on Bandcamp for download, and then that's just Bandcamp / Uncle Mike Nitro. It's, you know, that's what it is. And then the new album is available. I think it's going to be available end of January, but first week of February, and that'll be available on hiphopbebop.com. So that'll be available then, and that won't be available on digital download, because I like to just let the vinyl breathe a bit, you know, and then I'll put it up for digital on my Bandcamp in a couple of months or something like that.
Anyone you want to go on and give a shout out to as well?
Yeah, I will give a shout out to all the people on this new album, because this will probably be the last album I do rap wise. It might not be the last release I do, but I can't see myself doing anything. Like, an album takes so long, you know, it takes 2-3 years or whatever to try and get it together, and it takes a long time, and I'm getting older now, so I've got another music project. I sent you some clips of the tracks before, so you know that I'm working on different stuff, which is more of a kind of electronic type thing. I've always written songs and done different stuff. I'm not ashamed of it whatsoever. You know, look, I don't think you should be. I think sometimes hip hop comes with the stigma, and like people are like, you know, I just let people go and do what they want to do, innit? You know what I mean? I mean, I love it. I just don't, you know, I'm just a live and let live kind of person. Just go and do what you want. You know, just don't bust my. Okay, so yeah, John Dyer massively for doing all the artwork. Why have I only got that as the example of his stuff? Simon Franklin specific at Beeline, Sean Dowling at Hip Hop Bebop. Who else? All the people supporting, playing the music, doing the interviews, people like yourself. Like I say, all the people on the album, featured cast, especially Ollie Knight. Ollie Knight, massive props to him, because he's the kind of guy that mixes and masters and produces a lot of the other stuff. I say featured cast, I've already mentioned him. Obviously, that's the guy that was the rapper that I was always into. It's endless, isn't it? My son Noah, smashing the guest vocals.
Hopefully, you're going to be on Blaze Under as well, doing a little kind of interview and a freestyle as well.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. Yeah, I mean, obviously at the moment it's tricky, but yeah, I've spoken with him already, you know, and I love Blade. Do you know what I mean? Blade, it's just the hustle hero, isn't he? Yeah, I definitely want to do it, but obviously we keep we keep going to lockdown level 7. It's like I don't know what's going on, you know. So I've got to just try and work out the time. But yeah, I'll do that, and because I want to try and get. I mean, it's obviously dropping this album. I've got a load of music now with the old album, this album. I need to go and try and do some sets somewhere and try and get out and just do some gigs. But you know, such is life at the moment. We can't do that. So it's so what do you do? You know,
well,
so
you know, I'm sure that will happen. You know, later on in the year. Fingers crossed that you know we can slowly get back on track. So put the shades on.
There we go. Rock the shades. It's the only way to end the interview, isn't it? It's the only way to end the interview. Maybe I should do the Tom Fords. Gonna end the interview looking like you.
Woo! Hey, look, double trouble in the place.
There you go. It's the only way to end the interview, isn't it? Surely.
Exactly. You've moved into All-City. You've moved into me.
There you go, Tony Hart.
Now, Alex, listen, absolute honour, my man. And anybody watching this, subscribe to this channel. I've interviewed Public Enemy, Said G, Ultramagnetic MCs, Rodney P, Skinny Man, Scheme, T-Kid, Man Parish, Cosmo D, DJ Cash Money, DJ Pogo, so many others. So check my channel out as well. Woo!
That's it. Go and sign on. Subscribe to your man, to your boy. And check out Uncle Mike Nitro's new album coming out soon.
And check out Uncle Mike Nitro in The Place to Be with Vincent on Horseback. Woo!
Uncle Mike. Thanks, Vinny.
No, absolute honour, Alex.
No worries, brother. Thank you. Blessings.
Peace, my man.
Peace,
Stay safe.
yo.
Stay safe.
Peace.
Wicked.